This is the Breath of Fresh Jets podcast with Charlie Baduini.
All right, so today, I'm not Charlie Baduini of the Mazz Bads Show. I am Darren Moogie of the New York Jets, general manager, first month on the job. And I'm going to be putting together a 2025 Jets mock offseason. Now, in all seriousness, this is one of my favorite thought exercises to do. I've been doing these for years. If you remember back on the Breath of Fresh Jets, I used to do this like once a month. And now that we're back in the offseason, new regime, new coach, everything, we're going from top to bottom, from the start of the offseason to the bottom of the offseason with the draft. Going to go over the salary cap, cuts, restructures, extensions, signings, free agents, and the draft. Let's get to it. So, heading into the offseason, the Jets were at $11.2 million in cap space, which is not nearly enough. And they did a lot of bookkeeping, a lot of cleaning and cutting to get that number up a decent amount. Now, a lot of these players, like Aaron Rodgers, Allen Lazard, they had this thing where they had guaranteed money a few more years down the road, which means while you can cut them to gain some, you're also still paying out some money. So for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna keep it simple and say the amount of money the Jets are getting this year, okay? Not the amount that they're losing on the dead money, but just the amount that they're getting straight up, okay? So with the Aaron Rodgers post-June 1st cut, the Jets get $9.5 million in cap space. With the Devontae Adams cut, they get $30 million in cap space. Allen Lazard, $6.5 million. C.J. Mosley, $4 million. Greg Zuerlein, $2.5 million. And Michael Clemens, $1 million. So now, post these cuts, the Jets are sitting at $64.7 million. Now, that's a decent chunk of change there to make some splashes, make some moves. And then what do we do with the young guys? So we have some fifth-year options coming up. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson. I'm picking up Sauce and Garrett. That's an easy yes for both of them. Jermaine Johnson, I like him. I like the player. But coming off a major injury, I think this regime would decline the fifth-year option just to make sure he comes back healthy. Totally open to extending him after the season, but right now, he's entering a contract year. Sauce is not getting an extension right away. Give it to him halfway through the season once his play picks back up to that all-pro level that we know he can play at, and then we'll give him the extension. The only guy I'm giving a contract to right now is Garrett Wilson, and he's getting the Devontae Smith extension. So he's got this year, fifth-year option, and then tack on a 3-year, $75 million extension with $70 million guaranteed. He's locked down for the next 5 years because Garrett Wilson needs to be here. The Jets have to show him that he's a priority, and we don't want him to leave. We don't want him to request a trade. Give him the extension now, okay? The guy's a bona fide superstar. He's been producing with God knows what at quarterback for the last few years. So now on to the Jets' impending free agents. We have Jamian Sherwood, linebacker. We're re-signing him. 3 years, $15 million. Developed great. A college safety turned linebacker. He's fantastic. I think the Jets should really be interested in bringing him back. Now, all these numbers, I'm going with the re-signings, free agent signings. I got all of these numbers off of overthecap.com. Now, that's not the end-all, be-all, because once free agency starts, some of these guys' markets get driven up. I'm just going off of this just to keep it simple, and I didn't want to ballpark numbers and guesstimate. I'm going off over the cap. So, like I said, Jamian Sherwood, we're re-signing right tackle Morgan Moses for a 1-year, $6 million deal. He was really good last year, only missed 2 games, even though he, I think, partially tore a ligament in his knee and was still solid to good as a 33-year-old right tackle. So we're bringing him back. Re-signing cornerback Brandon Echols, 2-year, $8 million deal. Echols entering his, obviously, first free agency period, but a Joe Douglas draft pick, developed nicely for the Jets the last few years. Didn't ever really have a starting job, but whenever he was inserted in the starting lineup, if it was an injury to Sauce or DJ Reed, he just kind of has a nose for the football. So we want to bring him back. Developmental player, might have a chance to start next year, compete with Quantez Stiggers on the other side of Sauce. And then we're also bringing back Tyler Conklin on a 1-year, $5 million deal. He allegedly wants to be here. And I would be open to bringing him back on a 1-year deal. He was productive, but not amazing. So he's going to be the stopgap starter next year for the Jets. So post cap cuts, re-signings, the Jets are now sitting at $50 million heading into free agency. So the biggest 2 additions I think the Jets are going to make is they're going to have a brand new starting safety tandem. Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark, and Tony Adams were, they were serviceable at times last year, but the last few years the Jets' safety position has been absolutely horrendous. So we're spending big. We're splurging on Chiefs safety Justin Reed, 3 years, $51 million, and safety Jeremy Chin, 3 years, $18 million at your free safety and starting safety, respectively. These guys can hold up in coverage. They can come down and play in the box when they need to, interchangeably. And Justin Reed, championship pedigree. Jeremy Chin, just a smart, savvy vet, played well for Washington last year. And there you go. Jets have 2 brand new starting safeties, and that's what you need in Aaron Glenn's defensive scheme because he likes to blitz, and those safeties have to hold up in coverage. Now, this is the big one. I'm signing quarterback Justin Fields to a 1-year, $7 million deal. His market is probably going to be more than that. The Pittsburgh Steelers are probably going to re-sign him, and it's probably not going to be for $7 million a year. But if I'm the Jets, the best option out there in terms of free agency and quarterback position is Justin Fields. In this modern-day NFL where you got Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith revitalizing their careers on different teams at different stops, Justin Fields is that latest lottery ticket. It's a 1-year deal. It's nothing really you're not committing the rest of your franchise in the next 3 years to him. It's just, hey, we're coming here, have a chance to compete with Tyrod Taylor, and if you win the starting job, you can run with it. And hey, maybe you could be the long-term quarterback here for the New York Jets. It would be pretty interesting if Fields can kind of revitalize his career here with the Jets after they passed on him a few years ago for Zach Wilson. But obviously, I don't think the Jets would be in a different situation had they taken Justin Fields there. So, whatever. Let's give it a try, Justin. Let's give it a try. Next bigger signing, defensive tackle B.J. Hill from the Broncos, 2 years, $16 million. When's the last time the Jets had a running mate for Quinnen Williams? Oh, yeah, that's right. Leonard Williams? John Franklin Myers would kick in sometimes. Javon Kinlaw stinks. Solomon Thomas, great guy, stinks. They need to get somebody in there to eat up some of those blocks so Quinnen Williams can get free. B.J. Hill is that guy, veteran, just a 2-year deal. I think it would be absolutely fantastic for the Jets. Now, over to the receivers. They have Garrett Wilson. They have Malachi Corley, who is an unknown. They have Xavier Gibson. And Lazard and Devontae Adams are gone. So they need at least some bodies there. Now, I went with 2 guys who are coming off of iffy seasons. Deontay Johnson. He had a really weird season because, obviously, he was with the Panthers. Traded to the Ravens. Ravens cut him. He goes to the Texans. The Texans cut him. And then he goes back to the Ravens so they can get a comp pick. So he's coming off a really weird year where he had some questionable things going on in the locker rooms and wasn't happy. He's on the cheap. 1 year, $3.5 million. Solid receiver. Low risk, high reward. Could potentially be your number 2 next to Garrett Wilson. Next up is wide receiver Rondale Moore. 1 year, $1.5 million deal. He's coming off a broken leg that he suffered in training camp last year with the Falcons. He's going to be another one of those, buy low, maybe strike high. He was really, really solid with the Cardinals before he got traded to the Falcons. I'm a fan of his game. I think he's got a chance to, use a year with the Jets to kind of up his value, and then he can hit the market next year and maybe get a bit of a longer-term deal. Next up is tight end Luke Farrell. He was a backup for the Jaguars. We're signing him to a 1 year, $1.5 million deal. It's just depth. Jeremy Ruckert has been borderline unplayable his time with the Jets, and I think he'd be just a solid depth piece because we got Tyler Conklin, and we probably, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, going to draft one coming up. Finally, we have 2 depth edge players. The Jets have Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson already. Just need some guys to sit behind them, and when they need a breather, these guys come on. Marcus Davenport, edge from the Lions, 1 year, $2.2 million deal. Familiar with Aaron Glenn, familiar with the system, and then edge Emmanuel Ogbah, just a depth guy, someone on the cheap that the Jets can pick up and just have as a depth option, of course. Now, C.J. Mosley's gone. Quincy Williams is entering the last year of his deal. The Jets bring on linebacker Devin Bush from the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken, to a 1 year, $1.5 million deal. Or actually, no, I think he played for the Browns last year. Yeah, played for Cleveland last year. He is going to be your linebacker depth and potentially spot starter here and there. And finally, to round out the free agent signings, kicker Nick Folk, making a return to the Jets. Yeah, get out of here, Greg the Leg. We're bringing back Nick Folk, the hero of the 2010 Jets-Colts wildcard game. Had a bunch of clutch kicks that year and still is producing at a high level. Had a great season last year for the Titans. Before that, was really solid for the Patriots. And he's just your stopgap guy before you can find your long-term kicker, because he's going to be like 40 years old this upcoming season, but still a really solid kicker. All right, so that leaves us with $5 million to play around with after the draft and training camp. If some injuries happen, you got to sign somebody. $5 million to do so. We'll leave it at that. Moving on to the NFL draft. So I just fired up the PFF mock draft simulator. The picks came to me as they went. I'm just going to name the names. I don't really know exactly how some of these 4th, 5th, 6th round picks are going to work out, but at least for the first few, I had a very, very specific purpose. So the first pick, round 1, pick 7, Tet McMillan out of Arizona. He's interesting because he's got the talent to go this high, but there's some character and work ethic concerns with him. I'm just Tet McMillan across from Garrett Wilson. You got Rondale Moore / Deontay Johnson there. Xavier Gibson, you can sprinkle him here and there. That's a decent 5 receivers right there. Good to great, maybe, depending on injuries and health and satisfaction with Deontay Johnson, but I'm good with that. I like that receiver room. Round 2, pick 49, offensive tackle Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon. He's a guy who's got a lot of experience, played a lot, of course, in the Big Ten, the Pac-12 the past few years. He's not starting right away because, of course, we have Olu Fashanu and Morgan Moses on the left and right side, but Connerly gets a chance to, sit back and have a redshirt-ish season, similar to how Olu did last year, where he's, if someone gets hurt, he's going to play, but he's going to take a step back and learn from Morgan Moses and be the long-term right tackle solution for the Jets. Round 3, pick 92, Gunnar Helm is tight end out of Texas. They just need more tight ends. This guy, don't know how amazing he is. I know there's a lot of really good tight ends in this draft. Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren's been mocked to the Jets at 7th overall, but for now, we're sticking with the guy we got in the 3rd round, Gunnar Helm. And then we got an edge rusher out of Michigan, Josiah Stewart, in round 4. I got a linebacker from Georgia, Smail Munden Jr. in round 5, because Georgia defensive players are just great. And then with my other 5th round pick, because the Jets have 2 this year, I drafted Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse. Now, McCord's a guy who isn't expected to be an elite NFL quarterback, but has tools, has a lot of starting experience, and he's going to be your 3rd quarterback behind Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields, and have a chance to compete for the starting job, but more likely than not, he's riding the pine his rookie year in the NFL. Then I got Mello Dotson as a cornerback out of Kansas in the 6th round, and then Willie Lampkin, who is an interior offensive lineman from UNC in the 7th. So just drafting for depth, really, except for those first 3 picks, I should say, because those guys are probably going to play right away. But rounds 4 through 7, yeah, those guys are going to sit year 1 and, of course, develop and marinate as NFL players. So now, that's the offseason. Our starting lineup is, of course, quarterback Justin Fields / Tyrod Taylor, whoever wins that duel. You got Breece Hall at running back. Your 3 receivers are Garrett Wilson, Tet McMillan, and Deontay Johnson, with, of course, Rondale Moore and maybe Malachi Corley sprinkled in there. You got Tyler Conklin starting at tight end. And then your offensive line from left to right, Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Morgan Moses. Same group as last year. They were solid. If you can keep them all, that's great. And then defensively, we got Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald as your edge rushers, Quinnen Williams and B.J. Hill as your big, thick, fat boys up front, defensive tackles. You got Quincy Williams and Jamian Sherwood as your starting linebackers, Sauce Gardner, Brandon Eccles, and Michael Carter II as your 3 corners, and, of course, Justin Reed and Jeremy Chin at safety. And then kicker Nick Folk, and punter, yeah, I hung on to Thomas Morstead. He had an okay year last year. He can hang on for one more year. But that's going to do it. That is my 2025 Jets mock offseason 1.0. Maybe give me a month once free agency wraps up. Then I'll just stick with the draft, and then we're actually going to have a legitimate Jets roster shaped out, heading into the summer. And then before you know it, it's going to be football season. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe, like, Follow us on socials, Mazz and Bads on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you soon.
You've been listening to The Breath of Fresh Jets with Charlie Baduini.